This is Lookup Business. My name is Kiage. We do have a lot lined up for you on this particular episode. Conversations around how companies now are at the fore of conversations around inclusive workforce. We do know that the Kenyan Constitution actually does provide for people with disabilities Employment Act. It's actually in place. But then conversations around how we need to make it more effective are going to happen on this particular episode. Other areas of importance as well, in as much as business is concerned. We are back from the holiday, so the numbers for our markets are pretty much going to appear the way they were yesterday. But we've been into 2 hours and 8 minutes of trading, and we shall be updating you on exactly how they are recording. We've already seen a couple of prices jump in those particular counters, especially around Safaricom and all that. This week we shall also be updating you on exactly how they look like. But conversations around what is happening in the markets right now, we do know that NSE now is appealing for a law change that will see a scrap to the age limits for their CEO and chair. That's a developing story. We shall be talking about it. But questions around why we need that particular people not changed, we'll be talking about it as well. Because when you look at what the laws and CMA indicate, they indicate that indeed you need to get out of office because the current CEO, that is Geoffrey Odundo, is supposed to get out of office latest by March next year. Now, NSE is petitioning CMA then to scrap the age limits or the office term limits from the current CEO, Geoffrey Odundo. We shall be talking about that as we go on with this week, because we do know that that particular man was hired in 2015, has been in that office for 7 years. Whether we have seen improvements for the past 7 years in the way that the current market has run its affairs, it's neither here nor there, because again, we're starting January with being the worst by second in number, worst performing stock in Eastern Central Africa. So much more conversations. But right now, let's take a break and look at exactly what is trending in terms of the biggest news headlines at this hour. Now, even as the cost of fuel is expected to rise on the back of revised production by OPEC Plus countries, pump prices are expected to ease for the first time in nearly a year in the wake of sharp drops in the cost of refined fuel imported into the country. Now, sources close to the Energy Regulatory Authority data indicate that the cost of imported refined fuel that would be used to determine prices in the monthly cycle starting Friday midnight has dropped by 10% to $105.96 per barrel, down from the $117.53 a barrel.
As the 14th of October 2022 nears and the Energy Regulatory Authority gets ready for another review of fuel prices, it has emerged that Kenyans might get a relief at the pump as the prices that the authority plans to use for the next month's review are cheaper. As the final impact of the recent plan by the OPEC countries to cut production by 2 million barrels a day awaits the industry, IPRA will price the commodity using the $105 a barrel variation. This coming from the recent drop in prices that the oil production countries wanted to mitigate by the latest move. The continued fall in the cost of refined fuel has seen to significant drops in the prices of imported super, diesel and kerosene, setting the stage for a fall in the pump prices and a reprieve for consumers beset a spike in the cost of living. Kenya uses the average landed cost of imported oil as the biggest determinants in the outlook of local fuel prices, with the exchange rate as well, and storage cost and margins for the oil marketers. If there is any challenge then to the expected drop, the shilling will emerge as the first block as it continues to weaken further against the greenback in what might be a stumbling block to any last-minute changes in pump prices from Friday midnight. Currently, fuel is retailing at a record high of 179 shillings and 30 cents a litre in Nairobi, while diesel is going for 165 shillings and 147 shillings and 94 cents per litre for kerosene based on the cost of refined oil, which was $117.53 per barrel, while shilling exchanged at 120.64 units per dollar. The cost of energy and transport have a significant weighing in the basket of goods and services which measures inflation of the country, to lead to costlier fuel in what could have further fueled public outrage over the high cost of living. Kenya was ranked by global risk assessment firm Vasek Maplecroft as one of the countries alongside Sri Lanka, Peru and Iran that faced a higher cost of civil unrest over the high cost of living. The Kenyan economy also uses diesel for transportation, power generation and running of agricultural machinery such as tractors, with a direct impact on the cost of farm produce. Edwin John Mukora, Lookup.
Data by the Central Bank of Kenya indicates that Kenyans held a record over 905 billion shillings worth of dollars in local banks that as July, even as importers continue to decry the shortage of the currency to fund import business. At the same time, Kenya's bonds turnover experienced a sharp decline by as much as 24% on the back of an unstable shilling and reduced demand by local banks. A time when local businesses have been decrying the lack of dollars in the Kenyan market. Latest data by the regulator indicates that the dollar deposits in the Kenyan market jumped by 19.6% from 755.9 billion shillings at the beginning of the year, crossing the 900 billion shillings mark for the first time. Analysts now say that the jump in dollar deposits is highly indicative of a depressed forex market, with the current instability of the shilling against the dollar seeing banks holding on to the greenback to maintain liquidity. This has in turn seen the shilling drop further by a whopping 6.1% against the dollar, pressured by high demand for the US currency by importers, especially petroleum products and industrial supplies, and interest rate hikes. In general, the shilling has declined further to an average of 120.81 against the dollar, a faster pace than last year's 0.5% depreciation, which was seeing the dollar deposit account holders increasing the value of dollar holdings for the rich Kenyans and bankers. On the other hand, the Kenyan bond market is experiencing headwinds after a 24.4% decline in September on a tight liquidity sent CBK back to the drawing board. The latest data shows that investors traded 583.63 billion worth of bonds in the period this year compared to 771.73 billion in a similar period in 2021. Analysts tie the drop to overborrowing by the government to meet its targets and expectation of rising interest rates, which has led to a focus on short-term bonds. Trading investors have been avoiding market-to-market losses resulting from rising interest rates, which has led to investors holding back on trading and focus on short-term government purpose. For Lookup Business, Simba, Elijah Charles, Kiage. President William Ruto held bilateral talks with his Tanzanian counterpart, President Samia Suluhu Hassan. Ruto emphasized the need for enhanced cooperation between both countries in key sectors, top among them trade, communication, security, and gas production. Ian Ketani files the following report.
After attending the 60-year celebrations in Kololo, Uganda, President William Ruto proceeded to Tanzania for a two-day state visit. Ruto held bilateral talks with President Samia Suluhu, emphasizing the need to bolster trade amongst countries in the East African community, while lauding President Suluhu for the commitment in enhancing trade, while indicating the need to do away with trade barriers in the region.
As I said earlier, trade between our two countries has grown phenomenally. In 1 year, exports from Kenya to Tanzania grew from 31 billion shillings to 45 billion shillings. And I think it's now clear to all of us that increase in trade benefits everybody.
With the prices of gas products skyrocketing, Ruto highlighted the need to hasten gas production and transportation through the pipeline to ensure reduction in energy tariffs and boost the economies of both countries.
We will now expedite the gas pipeline from Dar es Salaam to Mombasa and eventually to Nairobi, so that we can use the resources that we have in our region to lower energy tariffs, both for industry and for commercial purposes and domestic use in Kenya.
Security being one of the key pillars in developed economies, Ruto encouraged countries in the East African community to prioritize security and eradicate the increased crime rate and human trafficking in the region.
Tumeshakubaliana pia mambo ya kupigana na ugaidi, human trafficking, and the rest of the transboundary crimes that are making our region uncompetitive and giving us a bad name. So we have agreed that we will enhance the cooperation that exists between our security agencies so that we can share information, share strategy, and be able to deal with these challenges to secure our region, to secure our two countries.
President Ruto also emphasized on the need for countries in the East African community to ease movement in the region by dropping passport requirements to visit different countries, while calling on improved communication system to ease research and development in the region.
Tumekubaliana mambo ya utalii kati ya nchi zetu mbili. Tuko na resources ya utalii Kenya na tuko na resources ya utalii hapa Tanzania.
Ian Keitani, Lookup TV.
Now, members of parliament are looking to amend the constitution through two bills that look to give them power to manage the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, a move that will see a renewed fight with the civil society that got the Supreme Court's green light to declare the kitty unconstitutional. The two bills seek to entrench the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF, which will effectively see constituencies be entitled to at least 5% of the total annual revenue due to the national government.
Members of Parliament in the 13th House are living up to their promise to bring the CDF back. Matungulu MP Stephen Mule and his Gishogo counterpart Robert Gishumu have tabled separate bills aimed at amending to have legislators gain control of the CDF fund that they lost recently after the courts declared it unconstitutional. Barely days in the office, new draft constitutional amendment bill sponsored by Mr. Mule now seeks to amend Article 204 of the Constitution to entrench the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, NGAAF, which is controlled by 47 women representatives, and operationalize the Senate Oversight Fund, Economic Stimulus and Empowerment Fund. The new
All right, now moving on, the Central Bank of Kenya has announced separation of Airtel Money Kenya Limited from Airtel Kenya. In a press statement dated the 11th of October 2022, the Central Bank has announced their mobile money business, Airtel Money Kenya, has transferred to run a separate business entity from its mother company, Airtel Network Kenya, a process that started in 2019 in an effort to help the company to exclusively focus only at mobile money business. This comes amid a push for the company's biggest competitor, Safaricom Limited, to separate its successful mobile banking platform, M-Pesa, from the mother company, Safaricom. Take a short break right here on a Look at Business. Once we come back, we shall be looking at the NSA.
Hi there, my name is George Washuri. I am so happy to see you, and today I am here to enumerate, to explain how we package our land investment. We have 5 levels of our property, and we classify these levels as 1 star, 2 stars, 3 star, 4 star, and 5 star. This is what we mean, that if you buy a property that is 1 star with Optiven, one of the things that is evident, the property is cheaper, is below $500,000. And this particular property is basically bare land. We only do subdivision, put the beacons, and then produce titles. The second level, we call it 2 star. This is prime land, whereby we grade the roads, we put a marking fence, do the beacons, and produce titles. The third level, we call it 3 stars. This 3 star is value added plots. We do the malam, we do the water, we do the mesh fence, and there's a caretaker on site. The fourth level is 4 star. 4 star is ready to build development. We do very nice maram roads, we plant the trees, we put the water tower, we also put a caretaker on site, and finally, the 5 star. The 5 star is premier, it's the top level, and this one, we do cable roads, we do water management through underground culverts, we do underground power, we do fountain for water, we do beautiful and nice permanent gates, we do perimeter wall, and also do install the CCTV, and the whole property is manned by uniformed security. Some of these properties, these 5-star properties, we do a clubhouse and also construct swimming pool. Thank you once more for trusting Optiven. We value you. We are at Absa Plaza, 14th floor and 15th floor. God bless you.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College is focused on being the leading technical and vocational training institute in the region. Our team possesses in-depth knowledge and extensive experience in the industry, offering thorough training in cosmetology, hairdressing, interior design, creative arts, training of trainers, nail technology, and fashion design. With branches in Nairobi, Thika, Meru, Eldoret, and now in Mombasa, our courses ensure that learners are completely equipped with knowledge, competency, and employability skills. Enroll today to be a part of a center of excellence.
Hapa kazi tu inaendelea kuwasaka na kuwatambua wale ambao wanafanya kazi extraordinary na zile kazi za kujituma.
Biashara yote unaambiangwa, as long as you have a plan, you can do it. Our service is about to pressure the customer.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni hapa kazi tu.
Now remember, it's been about 2 hours and 27 minutes of trading. So this data that we have for you today is exactly what we're going to, is how we closed yesterday, by the way. There isn't much that is going to change because yesterday was a public holiday. Majority of trading was completely out. This is exactly now when we are opening for today's trading. Again, so what we're going to do is essentially look at what we are doing currently right now and then compare with what it was yesterday in terms of the biggest gainers, losers, and the big boys in terms of the biggest movers. So we do know exactly how it was yesterday. So we just want to compare and see indeed if the data or the trend that we did have from Friday, by the way, is exactly what we do have right now. Good. Let's jump into the first indicator of the biggest gainers in as much as yesterday's, actually Friday's trading is concerned. So we gotta go all the way back to how we closed on Friday, because today is like the Monday for our stock exchange. All right, let's look at where we are in terms of our biggest gainers. And again, Nairobi Business Ventures actually was among the biggest gainers by Friday's trading. So they were done 9.68% increase, and we're looking for Safaricom to see exactly whether it could break in the 26 shillings mark. But if you go by what we are talking about right now, because we do expect that indeed those numbers are going to change, then right now, as we speak, by the way, Safaricom is 26 shillings flat. So that is a 0.5 in addition of that particular stock. NBV, if you're going to go by what trading is right now, you could say that at 3 shillings and 50 cents. That means it's 8.02% change currently as it is right now. Remember, I'm just giving you the real-time number, so we move away from Friday's trading, but that's exactly how they opened this morning. Going by that data, then you will say that NBV then currently is leading in that change, and Safaricom then will follow in at 5.05%. We are not going to talk so much about Chumi because we don't know exactly how that stock has been, 27 cents to be exact. And then we do have Total now. That's actually NMG, National Media Group, that's coming at 17 shillings and 50 cents. If it ends like this, there will be 5.74% in terms of that gain. All right, let's look into the biggest losers. And again, I'll be comparing with exactly what is going on right now in terms of real-time trading, so that we move away from Friday's close of business. In terms of the biggest losers, again, on that one, we do have Sanlam, by the way, and Scan Group. Those are the ones that we're looking at right now. But as it goes now, NCBA, if it goes by anything, then they will be joining that list, because the NCBA right now is coming in at 30 flat. If they end like that, then we'll be dropping by 6%. Remember, it's 2 hours of trading, so we have to wait all the way up to 3:30 p.m. Sanlam again by the same percentage, 9.02%, meaning that they're dropping by 9.26%. Again, Unga Limited is back on that list again, and Kengen going by that as well. So Scan Group hasn't appeared, and yes, those ones have not really appeared in this particular list of current trading. So going by Friday's closing, that's exactly how we opened, and we've been seeing Sanlam especially coming into this list for quite some time, 2 days actually, or to be exact, 3 days last week. They did appear in that list by that percentage. So we're looking whether they can actually come out of it. Good. Let's move on to the biggest movers in as much as real time and Friday's close of trading is concerned. In terms of the biggest volumes right now, we're talking about Safaricom. Again, ended at 20,918,000 flat right now after just 2 hours of trading. We're talking about Safaricom being at 7,408,000, meaning they might break that mark again, the one that they closed by Friday. Other companies have already knocked that off. KPLC is already knocked Friday's numbers off. Right now, they're doing at 900,900. That's a big margin. So we're waiting to see whether they can actually, they've already beaten that 444,400 that they closed in on Friday. So it's for us to really look and see whether they can actually be in the 1 million mark in terms of volume. We do have NBV that is coming into this list already by 45,400, so meaning that they were not there from Friday, as you can see. And KCB currently at 57,200 flat, and Kengen is already in there after this 2 hours of trading at 461,600. So that is the outlook currently in terms of our trading right now. Right, so right here, we do normally attend events that are pertinent to the business in the country. Now, the question is going to be, how far are we in as far as the Employment Act is concerned, especially when it comes to giving priority to people living with disabilities or the infirm in our society? as a conversation, and Stanchart is already making headway in as far as this conversation is concerned. Once we come back from this break, it's going to be what they are doing currently at that particular lender to make sure that they are setting pace in recognizing people living with disabilities or infirm in the society in as much as employment is concerned. Once we come back here on Look at Business.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College is focused on being the leading technical and vocational training institute in the region. Our team possesses in-depth knowledge and extensive experience in the industry, offering thorough training in cosmetology, hairdressing, interior design, creative arts, training of trainers, nail technology, and fashion design. With branches in Nairobi, Thika, Meru, Eldoret, and now in Mombasa, our courses ensure that learners are completely equipped with knowledge, competency, and employability skills. Enroll today to be a part of a center of excellence.
Born a man, the society bestows tough responsibilities upon you.
Lazima uwe mtu wa bidii, ukija kuwa lazima uwe ni provider.
If you're not able to provide, that's a challenge. It takes a toll on a man.
It takes someone who is strong enough to face it.
This is Born a Man.
Hapa kazi tu inaendelea kuwasaka na kuwatambua wale ambao wanafanya kazi extraordinary na zile kazi za kujituma.
Biashara yote unaambiangwa, as long as you have a plan, you can do it. Our service is about kufurahisha the customer.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hii ni Hapa Kazi Tu.
Welcome back to Lookup Business. You are watching at Lookup TV. My name is Kiage. Now, if you look at the provisions of the Employment Act in Kenya, in fact, when you are applying, you normally see the headlines of people with disabilities are encouraged to apply. So you ask yourself the question, why do we have that there? But then, if you look around again in majority of the Kenyan companies, the thing that's going to stand out around these conversations is that majority of the workplaces in the country have not thought further, even in what they need to do then to meet the threshold that is required in giving people with disabilities this employment opportunities. Now, some time back, right here on Look at Business, we did attend an event by Stanchart. It's a bank that is really being at the fore of this conversation in terms of making sure that the numbers and opportunities for people living with disabilities are met at that particular lender. But they're saying that a third of their workforce is actually going to have people with disabilities in it. And companies are not prepared for the different disabilities that the workforce might have. So Sanchat is actually creating a way then, a platform for what majority of Kenyan companies might actually want to use as a potential framework to making sure that the opportunities and the representation then of people living with disabilities are met at work. Let's take a look at the conversations around that particular event.
The problem is the skills mismatch, because the employers are looking for people with specific skills. There are so many persons with disability who have skills, but are they matching the skills that employers are looking? So we need actually to come together, and whatever curriculum that we are learning, please speak to the employers also.
Not everyone understands disability, so we are in a learning journey.
It's all very well to sit here and plan how to be inclusive, but let us also reflect on the skills of those we really want to bring on board.
So Standard Chartered Bank has a big commitment towards the community. And our passion in community is around people with the youth. It's around youth and focusing especially on girls and people with disability. So in April this year, we launched a program called Future Makers Inclusive Employability Program. And this program really is to help us and to really push us to really look further into how can we support youth in universities become more employable on subtle skills like doing interviews, like writing their own CV, like really becoming visible and becoming ready for the workplace. And that is one of the components of the program. However, it's not just about the youth themselves. So after doing this, then where do you take them? You create a demand, where is the supply? And that's where KBDN comes in, where now we are bringing like-minded organizations, and through that program supporting them to become more confident, to be able to do assessment to find out, are they really able to bring in people with disability? Do they have accessibility? Do they even have a policy around it? How do they actualize that dream? And that's why, like today, we are bringing in people both who are in KBDN and those who can join KBDN, so that then we have a balanced way of looking at employability and inclusive employability. Okay, it's the understanding and looking at the world today. One of the biggest challenges we have is social inequality, where you can see disparity more in terms of the social and economic aspects of life. So if you look at it from that angle, and you are then asking yourself, where is it that help is most needed? You look at the most marginalized, and we find that the youth, and especially youth with disability and girls, and adolescent girls for that matter, or even like small-scale businesses, there's a big gap. So we came and asked, where can we make a difference? Hence the Future Makers initiative, which looks at employability, it looks at entrepreneurship, and it looks at education. So this is one of the pillars then that we are honing on to see what difference can we make. You look at Standard Chartered, apart from having been here for almost 119 years, one of the things we pride ourselves in is the impact we have on community. And we have put ourselves there, and we said our brand promise is to be here for good. So if you look at clients, our three most important areas that we look at are clients, our colleagues, and community. So if you look at the community, how can we make a lasting change? How can we impact the world? And we looked at the future and future makers, hence the word future makers. So all our efforts towards the community are looking at the youth, they're looking at women, and they're looking at people with disability. What you saw today is just one of the initiatives then that we want to make this commitment even louder and clearer, and to be held accountable that we are doing the right thing in the society. We have a good number of people, and we have a target to meet more. In fact, like way back even in 2019, that's the first time we actually went out for a drive to employ not just physical disability, but people with visual impairment. And even today, they were here, they were present. Yeah. So that is happening. This building in itself has become more accessible because we have put deliberate steps on how do we make that accessible, even for our client, like going to an ATM and being able to, if you're visually impaired, being able to use Braille on the ATM or getting lamps to get you to the ATM. So it's something, it's work in progress. We have made giant steps, and we also have even bigger commitments that we want to achieve as a bank.
I think when I think about the whole concept on disability, inclusion, employability, it's got to have a clear tone from the top. And that's one of the things that I see, especially in the private sector, that really, really needs addressing. Away from the numbers and getting people on board, and I think as we have talked about the case on disability, it's very clear that there is a clear business case. And all we need to do is to keep asking ourselves, then how do we move from diversity to inclusion and for Standard Chartered idea add to belonging? That these individuals are part and parcel of what you do every day in the way you look at products, in the way you design your buildings, in the way you design your lighting, as you say, Regina, in the way you design every bit of opportunity that you have. So for me, Joyce, it's twofold. One is from an organizational perspective, is that we have a huge opportunity ahead of us and in front of us to then say, what's a mandate that we put on the table that we follow religiously around people with disabilities? We have started the journey. And I dare say that we've been slow at it. And that brings me to the second perspective, which is personal. Anything for me that I want to touch is an aspect of both how do I make it better, that's one, but also how do you leave a legacy around it? And that might sound a bit cliche around legacy, but for you to step back, and Karaoke keeps challenging me on that aspect, is if this bank has been here over 100 years, so when we leave, what's a story that people will write about us? On the things that we influenced, on the things that we changed, and on the things that we can be proud of many years later to say, you know what, if we didn't take a stance and influenced, we would not be seeing what we see today in Standard Chartered. And that's really the story for me, that we've got to really put our cards on the table, influence the discussion, influence the action as well as we move forward.
And I want to start with, the way organizations advertise their jobs. They conclude persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply. And persons with disabilities apply. Mm-hmm. Hardly are they called for interviews. Yeah. And so I remember, there was a time I was looking for a job, and I see persons with disabilities are encouraged. I indicate I have a disability there, but I'm not called for an interview. So I decided I'm going to remove it. I removed it. I received so many interview invitations. And I was like, okay, so what does it mean when you say persons with disabilities are encouraged to apply, but then when you see it, you don't actually invite them for this interview? Yeah? So that was first challenge. And I found my solution was to remove, disability. If I remove, I'm called. If I'm not, if I don't, I'm not called, yeah? So that was one of the challenges and solution. And I think we need to be real, whatever we include when we release those adverts, And then what I've realized, from youth with disabilities we work with, when it comes to interviews, they shrink, And that's why when I say we are Leadership Hub, it's about working on ourselves first, because the difficulties we experience, there are too many that you calling me for an interview, I find so many people in that panel, I lose confidence. I even forget who I am at that moment. And so for GCC, what we do is we actually talk directly with an organization, and we reduce panelists, interview panelists. We even prefer doing phone interviews so that you're not biased when you see me, yeah? You understand? So let's do it on phone if it can be done, yeah? And so that was also one of the solutions because it worked. You interview me, you listen first, the skills I possess, the expertise, I have. Then now I appear. You can be shocked when you see me, but we did the work. But then we will work with you to just understand some of the reasonable accommodation this person would need. The other thing I found myself was when I get these jobs, it is not disability related, but the fact that you have a disability, sometimes they want to give you a disability role. And because I talked about flexibility of thought, I would still hold my position, the one I applied, and then this one for disability, how I would support. Because it's about also supporting. I have this thought, not everyone understands disability. So we are in a learning journey. I need to come in and help employers, my fellow colleagues to understand what is disability, what is disability inclusion. So that has been my journey. But the interview bit really is what we need to think about as employers. We really need to give it a thought.
Sometimes people get surprised when I tell them that I've really never had any difficulty in the labor market. For various reasons. I've lived in the two worlds of being sighted and losing sight as a young man in the university. So I had an idea what the world out there looks like. But my loss of sight did something interesting. It came as a challenge to prove my worth. So the hard work, changing subjects, or rather changing the degree course in the university and changing to law with a resolve to excel. At the end of that degree program, joining School of Law, looking for pupillage. Now that's where the shocks began, because I approached one of my lecturers who ran a flourishing law firm, and I told him, look, you've been my lecturer, you know me, can I be a pupil in your establishment? And said, I'm sorry, I have no experience working with people with visual disability, so that will not work. Knocked a few other doors, of course, had two offices or two chambers reserve a position for me, so I picked one. Towards the end, I volunteered at a non-state agency that dealt with legal aid. Hard work paid, because the chairman of the executive committee approached me before I left the School of Law to offer a job, and I turned it down, and he said, think about it, I'll come back in 2 weeks. So I said, well, I'll take it if I don't like it. I'll quit. That job translated in a coveted scholarship award to the London School of Economics. Again, in an inclusive society that never paid attention to my disability. So I lived very independently, coming back, of course, to practice again employment. I had 2 jobs. I was teaching full-time under TSC and practicing in a law firm that didn't mind me having a second job. Why am I narrating all this? It is because as I interact with fellows with disability, Sometimes I get the feel that society has pushed us so far down that we give up. We don't work hard enough. We just want a job handed to us to lay bread on the table. While in actual fact, handed to us to lay bread on the table. While in actual fact, society will forget about your disability if you are. Now, we are seated here talking about jobs. We are seated here talking about jobs, inclusivity and all, but very little is said about the qualification for those with special needs. And I think that's where the crux of the matter is. And I think we need to make a conscious effort to very intentionally target resourcing students with special needs, whether visual disability, communication problems, so that we build skills that will make them compete on an equal platform, if not better. I've spent quite a bit of time in recent months looking for just some laptops for blind students doing law. And I can hardly get someone volunteering and saying, look, a laptop costs this much, a speech system costs this much, let me donate 1 or 2 laptops. I still haven't gotten them. Now, it's all very well to sit here and plan how to be inclusive, but let us also reflect on the skills of those we really want to bring on board.
Whether we have been talking the right things or whether that is actually his experience on the ground. Kwa ground ni namna hivyo. Are we seeing the same thing? Is he convinced that we are tackling this? And allow me to ask Fred from Riziki Resource, just to tell us, we've discussed all this. We have felt good that we have discussed, but are we hitting the right milestones? Fred comes from an organization called Riziki Resource. You will have noticed a table here. He hires people or persons with disability. So he has met most of you trying to make placement in your organization, and he has dealt with people looking for jobs. So I'm curious to find, are we on the right path, Fred?
Yeah, thank you, Regina. My name is Frederick Oko, and I'm founder of Riziki Source. Riziki Source is a social enterprise that helps connect persons with disability to job opportunities. So they say change is incremental. And the way Joyce was saying, you cannot just switch and then turn this way or that way. So is inclusion. So it means that whenever we are talking about day, there are people who talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. And we have big budgets about this, or we make a lot of communication around this in many organizations. But there's one component that we forget, that day without disability inclusion actually isn't day. We're just doing cosmetics around everything that we do. So it means that it's possible, we are making strides, but then we need to do more. We need to seek out, for example, people say, I can't find person with disability to employ. Riziki Source is here. We have a database of persons with disability. We are struggling to get them placed. The simple thing is, can you reach out? We help you in that journey, because we understand perhaps your advert might not be inclusive to someone who is, say, blind. Maybe the way you communicate, somebody who is deaf might not be able to capture what you are saying. Then it means they won't apply, because talent acquisition managers are always saying, when I put up an advert, I can't see people applying. It's because they never saw your advert. It just didn't occur to you that we don't read newspapers. There's no newspaper which is brailled. There isn't in Kenya. So reach out to initiatives like ours and then this particular platform, that then we can give you the appropriate talent. We can then support you during that journey, because we understand not everyone is born knowing everything. So it's not about bashing here. It's about what is our mutual interest. Are we interested in making inclusion work? Then when you come out, then we work with you, say, if you want to work with this particular talent, then these are the things that you need to work around, and you'll be fine, and then you can pay this person, and in return, it is a service they're offering you. You are not paying them for free, you're not doing them a favor, you are recruiting a talent. this is what we mean by disability inclusion. It's not about just hiring someone with a disability, putting them in the office to take a mark somewhere. It's about finding the correct talent to the correct position within your establishment that helps you improve your bottom, yes. So it means that when you are doing your finances, they actually include, they have an effect to what you declare either end month or during the particular. So they want to contribute. The thing is, let us give them opportunity. Let's interview appropriately. Let's advertise jobs appropriately. And as Rezikisos, together with the Light for the World, Site Savers, we are willing and we are ready to offer this particular support whenever you reach out. We'll give you the correct talent. We'll support you in terms of how do you interview someone with this particular disability, how do you even make an advert around this, and then you'll be confident to hire many talents with disabilities. So